Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. You are listening to a podcast by Pastor Eric Deepen and Pastor Andy Littleton. If you enjoy Faith Over Breakfast, we encourage you to rate it on the Apple Podcast app, on Spotify, or Google Play. Thank you and enjoy the podcast.
Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. My name is Andy Littleton, and I am here with Eric Deepen. I pastor at Mission Church.
You do.
And Eric is at The Village.
The Village.
And today I really pushed Eric I wanted to talk about friendship the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
He so kindly obliged. And the reason for that is I have begun a process. Some of you who follow me already might know this, but I am posting a lot and thinking a lot about friendship, number one. The Chicago Cubs, which are one of the themes that carries the story for me, and Volkswagens. And so I am doing a quest. It's called 2,000 Miles to Wrigley. We'll have more info in the show notes and stuff later, but I'd like you to follow it on Patreon in case you don't get through the episode. Look up 2,000 Miles to Wrigley.
Yep.
Or my name on Patreon.
Okay.
And I would love it if our listeners would follow me there, discuss this with me there. Just follow along with this process. It'd mean the world. So we're going to talk about friendship. You'll get more of the flavor of why in our conversation. Eric, thanks for having it with me.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy it.
As always, you've got the data, you've got the family systems. Man, you took it to next level. I loved it. That's what I need. I need more of that.
All right. Well, enjoy, guys.
Yep.
The sun glaring in on us.
I don't want to see the great outdoors.
Never.
Okay.
I love my hobbit holes.
Yeah,
I'm a hobbit.
You're the hobbit.
Mm-hmm. I'm an oversized, overstuffed hobbit.
As in you are overstuffed?
Mm-hmm. Overstuffed and oversized.
Okay.
For a hobbit. Anyway.
For a hobbit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's so how are we friends? How seen as you're an oversized, overstuffed hobbit and I...
How would you self-identify?
I don't know. I was just going to say, now I have to think about this.
In the Lord of the Rings world.
In the Lord of the Rings world. See, there's the problem right there. I don't even know all the characters of the Lord of the Rings or any other fantasy thing, and I don't know anything about games. So what I really want to do right now is be like walking around outside or checking out some new town. Something, going to a show.
Yeah.
What is that in the Lord of the Rings?
That you would be a ranger, probably.
Ranger?
Yeah.
That's the name of a character or a type of character?
A type of character. You could be Aragorn.
Okay. I'm aware of that guy.
Yeah, you're aware of him.
Yeah.
You've seen the movie?
I've seen the movie.
Yeah, so you know a little bit of...
Yeah.
You got the basic elf, orc, human, hobbit.
I have that basic
Wizard
framework down. Yeah. Okay, so a ranger. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I'm on this quest thinking about friendship for the year, and especially for the summer, and getting ready to write a memoir about it, which is an interesting thing to do because I'm talking about it, I'm talking about the theme, but I'm going on this trip. It's a travel memoir, so in a way, I just have to do the trip and see what happens.
Yes.
But I'm doing a lot of pre-thought and a little pre-writing, and this has made me think a lot about the friends I've had, the ones I still do. I've been reconnecting with some old friends. Some of that I tried or thought about before this, but I'm, I guess, just taking it a little more seriously. And I consider you a friend, and I wanted to talk to you about it. And so I'm wanting to hear what people think about friendship. What questions are people asking? But also just how's it happen? I mean, even just this little prologue here, we're super different, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The little look on your face was like, hello.
Yeah, we're different.
So the instigating story of this for me is I've had the best friend in my life, and Sam, my best friend, died in a really tragic car accident where he and his fiance were on the way to their wedding. They were coming down to Tucson from Denver. The bachelor party, I think, was the next day, and then a couple days later, it was just the wedding weekend. And so a rollover accident on the freeway, probably drowsy at the wheel, most likely. And all of a sudden, the next day, my best friend's gone. And that has uniquely, now this was 18 years ago, but that's made me think about this theme. I mean, there's the grief and there's the loss and all the questions about death and all that. But it's made me think a lot about friendship over the years, because I've wondered, how this is going to go now. What about, will I ever have a friend like that again? Are you supposed to? It brings up all sorts of questions about, like, I'm sure women think about this, but there's the friendship of a spouse, but there's also the friendship of kind of the comrade, or that'd be a male way of saying it. But I've just asked a ton of questions. How do friendships change? I've wondered, because he died in his 20s and I was in my 20s, would we still be friends in the same way? He was moving to a different city, getting married. Marriages change friendships. Different career paths change friendships. Just seasons of life, whether you have kids or not, if your families get along. There's so many things that I've chatted with people about as I've been thinking about this. But one of the things I thought about was just how does friendship even happen? And so with Sam, there was he, I guess, had a rough experience in a grade school. And so his parents pulled him out and homeschooled him for a year. And a kid from his church went to school with me. And I believe it happened this way, that he came to the school to take a standardized test, because the homeschoolers needed to take the standardized test somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so the kid at my school, Eric, said, hey, this my buddy Sam's coming to school. He's got to be on our team for basketball at like recess. And I'm thinking, okay, this kid's going to be good. And up walks this chunky, short kid with a mullet and really, really like short shorts and stretched out socks. Like, this is my memory, whereas like this guy, how did his socks get this way? Like, how do you even, like, that sock doesn't fit on his leg at all. And I was just like, what is this dude's deal? And his shoes were tight, like so tight that it looked like his feet were going to get chopped off by the lace. And I was like, this is a weird kid. And I did not relate to him. I didn't like him. He was kind of arrogant. And I was like, how are you so arrogant when you look so strange? This is my first immediate thought. And he was really good at basketball. He actually was just a great shooter, even though he didn't look like one. So that, I was like, okay, yeah, he was good. I think we won the game. And then the next interaction with him that I remember was he said, what are you doing after school? And I said, I'm going to aftercare, which was where it was like an extended recess for kids whose parents weren't off work yet. And he kind of laughed at that. He's like, aftercare, that's dumb. I was like, dumb? Just, I'm going to aftercare. Like, that's what I do. And he's like, well, why do you go to stupid aftercare? I was like, because my mom works. And he goes, so? Like, come over to my house. And I was like, okay, what? So I went home and said, Mom, can I go over to this kid Sam's house? And she goes, Yeah, sure.
So can we pause right
Yeah,
there?
pause
and just
right
say, isn't that kind of isn't that kind of weird? Can you? I just can't imagine
sure.
that even happening in this day and age. Your mom didn't even think I
Yeah.
should call that my parent, find out who she is. It's just like, sure, go over to this stranger's house.
I'm working off my own limited memory
Sure.
here, so I don't know.
You don't know if she checked,
But gauging it, like, as my relationship with him developed, I would just ride my bike back and forth to his house pretty far alone all the time. So since that was in play,
yeah,
it also is likely that
Yeah.
she just said sure. So then the tan Volkswagen Bug pulls up to the school, and I've never been in one of these before, and little,
right.
and it's Sam's mom, and I jam in the back of this car, and the experience begins. Like, their family very different than mine. Get over to his house, and his dad's making him do basketball drills in the back using Pete Maravich videos, and we have to take our shirts off because we need to get vitamin D, and I've never taken my shirt off except to take a shower in my life, and they serve you water in these pewter goblets, and and the Cubs game is on in the background, but it's on TV, but the radio is on over the TV because the radio broadcast is better. It's this whole different world.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
Somehow, this becomes my best friend. But in many ways, I mean, he went on to be a thespian, musician. You know me, car guy. I fixed up cars, put stereos in cars, sports. We're very, I ended up liking hip hop. He was ended up in the progressive rock or, cutting edge jazz world. But we're best friends. So I've thought, what do I know about friendship? I never would have engineered that. That was not, I didn't pick my friend. In fact,
Right.
There were friends I thought were going to be my best friends forever who would just last a couple of years. But that worked. I don't know how that worked. I don't know how that happened. And so I want to explore all this. So as I'm saying all this stuff to you, I just want to talk about friendship. Is that, you can ask me questions. Do you relate to any of this? Do you have any friendship stories that, were surprising? I do think I think you and I have a similar, we got invited to be on a radio show. I'd seen you speak, but I don't know. I didn't expect to get to know you as well. Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm trying to think about outside of that conference that I was at, that I taught at.
Did we really interact?
I went to Midtown a couple times.
That was and I had showed up here. There was the conference I heard you present at. I'd done counseling work with your dad, especially. Yeah. But then my wife and I visited the village.
Yep.
And so then, you would have come to visit after that. I started getting to know Rod. And then the radio show. Yeah. Right? Was there really much else? We weren't hanging out.
No.
Per se.
So, Caleb kind of connected us. Because he was and Sam was at your church and Caleb was at mine.
So we had a person, there was a pair of friends. One went to my church, one went to yours. They were doing a radio show.
Yeah.
We came with each of them. Mm-hmm. And I've heard stories like this where people say, so-and-so brought so-and-so to the party and so-and-so brought so-and-so. And then the two that were brought become, the connection is deep.
Well, so things that were popping into my head while you were, we could reflect on our friendship. It's very circumstantial.
Yeah.
And based on our professions.
Yes.
But I was thinking, so about 70% of men say that their spouse is their best friend.
Wow, really?
30% of women say their spouse is their best friend. This is why male widowers have a harder time than female.
I should mention too, while I'm interested in this, there's a lot of news and current sociology toying with what they're calling a friendship recession, and it's mostly acute with men who say they do not, that the number of men that say they do not have a close friend at all has grown exponentially, like 3 to 5 times in the past 5 to 10 years. And that actually, this was pre-COVID. This trend had begun, and I can't help but assume that was accelerated.
Yes, and we've talked about the loneliness epidemic and all those kinds of things. So just to that data point there, so people understand. But here's another interesting data point about marriage, and then some circumstantial evidence that kind of connects to friendship. Is when I was in environmental psychology, so this would be the early 90s, we learned that 90% of marriages, you marry somebody who lives a mile away from you.
Okay.
So this is in the early 90s. And what I've discovered with this online dating and marriage thing, the circumstantial evidence that I find is that people end up going online and marrying, maybe it's not a mile away, but marrying somebody they already knew.
Who was in their sort of sphere
was in their,
or
excuse
circle.
me, you're right. There was in their friend circle.
But
they didn't know them,
Yeah.
but they got introduced and they're like,
I remember a story like that where some people we knew, they were in the same singles group at church, had seen each other, but hadn't ever really talked, and then the online match thing
put them together. Yeah, I mean, and there's people in our church. There's people. I mean, there's just tons of people I know that this has happened to.
Yeah.
So very fascinating to me that's still happening. So what I'm trying to say in that is that friendship. And marriage is one of those aspects of friendship. It's where you are, who your neighbor was. So like a lot of my childhood friends were just the neighbors, in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
right. It's not like I could have chosen them. They were just chosen because my parents and their parents chose to live there.
Yeah.
And I had a series of good friends because I moved a lot. I would lose good friends. So I have a group of losses connected to friendship.
This is in my early story, and I hadn't really thought about it as much, but we have the move from Oregon to Tucson, and then we live in a mobile home park, and we move, and there's this early period where some people have long-term deep friendship where I don't. So, and you how long did that last for you?
All the way until I was in high school.
Yeah, that's longer than me. Yeah.
So I had 3 really good friends, one in each city that I moved to, and then.
Did you keep up with them?
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, as a junior high, as in elementary school, I just didn't.
No.
I tried to keep up with one of my friends who then. So when I moved back to Tucson, my neighbor, Ian, like he was an Australian exchange student, or I don't forget why he was here, but his dad was a visiting professor, and so they moved back to Australia or Germany, and so we tried to stay in contact, but all in those days, all you have was letters. Like you didn't have like email. There was no email. So
here's a question: do you think defining friend is interesting?
Sure.
Do you think you need to keep up with someone for them to have been or to be a friend? Like, what if you had a year somewhere where you knew somebody deeply and you didn't keep up with them? Are they your friend now?
Yeah, I mean, I think friendship is what we understand friendship to be, and what a friendship provides is different.
Yeah.
I mean, I think probably, a good chunk of history, the majority of friendships are built around survival and comfort. So it's a friendship out of necessity. And so, but I think in modern times, especially in first world countries, you have lots of time to develop friendship.
Yeah.
And you are looking for a narrowed friendship, like one that fits all of your, hobbies and interests. And
you want them to be almost this full life partner.
Right.
The interesting thing with Sam and I is we could go long periods of time without talking. So when he moved to Denver, we didn't text. We didn't talk every day, but every once in a while we'd have a phone call and we would talk for a long time.
Yeah.
and it was like no problem, and that wasn't an issue at all. And it, I've thought about, so in the last couple months, I've gotten together with a couple of like grade school friends, one I hadn't seen in 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because we went right back to talking about the old experiences, but then that led us into like filling in a bunch of stuff about life. And honestly, I felt pretty connected to the guy. And I foresee us getting together more often now. And, but we hadn't 25 years. And I think the way I'm thinking about it is I'm thinking, and actually I think he said it this way, which stood out to me. He didn't say this was my friend. He introduced me, I think it's to one of his kids, as this is my friend.
Sure.
Even though we hadn't seen each other for 25 years.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, we had seen each other briefly once, like very, very brief. Yeah.
Right.
But I thought, yeah, I think that's right. Like, friendship, I don't know. I don't know if it is it's just for its time. I think even if, I'm thinking about there's a couple that was here for 2 weeks from Germany that got along with really well. Would I say they were my friends for 2 weeks?
Right. Well, no. I think you don't gain or lose friendship. It's, I think from a biblical sense perspective, because if you have friends within the context of God's kingdom, the spirit within you and the spirit within them, which is the spirit of God, it entertains, it engages, so there's like a deep, intimate connection because we have the same spirit. So yes, time can pass and it can be different. At my mother's memorial service, there's this group of friends when we were early married who we dreamed about what life could be like and all the different things. And we, most of us started a college ministry together and kind of went through the ups and downs of all of that. And there were real good joys and pains. And so seeing all of them brought back all those feelings of being young.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated them, and they were super kind, and it was fun to talk to them. But I don't really have a desire, to like upend my life to begin to reconnect with them.
Yeah.
That was a moment in my life, and I enjoy them when I see them. But I think
we can only manage so much.
Well, and I think God draws out boundaries for us, and those boundaries are where we're called to be. And so our friends, for this moment, reside in this space that we're called to be in.
Do you think, I totally see that, but there's an interesting situation that you and I are in and some other people, in that we have a lot of relationships because of our role.
Mm-hmm.
And so even the thought for me, like reconnecting with these friends I have to really work it in to my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not easy to do. It's not like I'm just sitting around. And that's been fine. That's been good. I'm excited about the quest, and maybe the quest is helping me do that because I've prioritized a little time to it for this year. But I can't. Yeah, I only have so much bandwidth. But there are a lot of people that aren't flooded with relationships, right? That loneliness epidemic. So we're in a kind of a unique situation, I think.
Well, and I think, when you start looking at all that data, if you begin to extract who's lonely, it's actually not usually people who go to church on a regular basis.
I totally would. I would think this is Robert Putnam, Bowling Alone, and the movie Join or Die, that kind of thinking, which is that they're not a part of anything.
Right.
Not just a church, but there's no club, organization, thing that creates bonds.
Yeah. I think that I define friendship pretty loosely now.
Yeah.
As a 52-year-old. And I also see it as very seasonal.
Sure.
If you and I stopped doing this podcast,
we wouldn't see each other as much.
No.
And our relationship would change.
Yeah. And I would catch up with you at the different meetings. Maybe you and I try to catch coffee twice a year so that we can stay connected to each other and know what's going on in each other's life and know how to pray.
Yeah.
Like that's
but even that would be without the built-in times.
Yeah.
It would be harder to make it happen.
Yeah.
It would just easily slip, right?
Yeah. But because there's a calling and the thing that we do, and I think so all these things provide space, and I think friendship comes out of more dear friends come out of a covenanted relationship than one that's built around around same affinities, for instance.
So work that out.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of my closest friends is Keith, and Keith lives with me in my house. Keith and I have less in common than you and I do. And yet Keith and I have lived together for almost 27 years. I don't know, so 28 years, a very long time. And I know that at the worst points in my life, Keith will be there.
Yeah.
And at the worst times of his life, I will be there. And when things are hard with his family and his kids, or good with his kids, I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to cry. I'm going to step in. Because we committed in a covenant way to live life together. And the thing that we had in common was hurting people who needed Jesus. That's it. And that's all we needed for the four of us to live out a life together. And I can even see now as, he's getting older and moving towards retirement. I'm older. Yeah, we don't even have the church. Like, we do stuff in the church together, but our lives are different. And he's got other challenges and things he has to deal with. So, yeah, we appreciate the thing that we've built on, but we don't have stuff in common. Right. I mean, we can sit and talk and laugh. Our commonality is 29 or 28 years of life together. And so we reflect on that. But I could see Keith and Julie, if they moved out, and maybe I would see them. I'll see them at church, and we'd go out to dinner or have them over maybe 4 or 5 times a year.
Right.
And we would be friends, and he'd do tons of hiking just like he does now.
Yeah.
And I'll play board games. He's probably played 5 board games with me in 28 years.
Yeah.
And I think maybe gone on one hike with him.
Yeah.
But that's not what our life is about. We've cooked tons of dinners together. We've thrown tons of parties.
Yeah.
We've cried over our kids. We've fought it out. He and I even got in 2 fist fights early on.
Yeah.
Like, we've done life together. So,
man, I would love the footage of that.
Yeah, a lot of people would.
Yeah.
It ended up in a lot of laughter, and it's things that bonded us together. So to me, like, I'm not hunting some ethereal, like, you and I bond and connect because I think God, if you're going on God's mission, God provides you with people to walk with you.
Mm-hmm.
And do I connect with, like, sit with somebody? I'm like, man, in another life, it'd be really great to be your friend.
Right.
Like, we connect, we understand each other. Wish I had more time in my life.
Sure.
But that's not what God's calling is.
Yeah.
It's for me to somehow have some short-term,
and the enjoyment of that is
it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be. I think sometimes because of the loss, maybe I've put a little pressure on relationships. Like, I've hoped one would go, like, be more profound, I guess. And, like, I don't know that helped things.
Yeah. Well,
and I, rather than just being grateful for what it is, like, hey, what it is now is fine. If there's more to it, cool. If not, like, that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, not to over psychologize all this, but I mean, part of the loneliness epidemic is because so many of us have such, like, difficult attachments to our parents.
Yeah.
And so there's this big hole because most of them aren't stable attachments.
Yeah.
So we're hunting for some kind of fulfillment depending on what kind of attachment we have when we're kids. And so I think the loneliness is built in there, and that there's a certain level of an idolization of a friend or a figure that's going to fill that hole for us.
Sure.
And so I'd say friendship is... I talk to people who say I don't have any friends, and I'm like, well, but what about this person? And what about this person?
Yeah.
There's an idyllic thing that people are looking for.
And sometimes that ideal causes you to miss what's there. I mean, I remember at one point
yeah.
talking to you about friendship,
Mm-hmm.
and you actually said, "What about me?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was an interesting thing because I was like, "Oh," kind of like, and I had a similar thought with Rod, where at one point I was thinking, it was probably around the same time,
Sure.
and I thought, why am I not categorizing Rod right in this moment as my friend? Like if I'm, like you said, like if something's wrong and I need support, I know I can call Rod. He's going to answer. He's going to be there for me. He's seen me in really like stupid and immature moments and still loves me. He's, and, all kinds of stuff. I'm like, what am I looking for? If I didn't name that as friend, like I'm missing that. I'm missing something.
Right.
So, and I think it was that ideal where it was like we'd have all the everything, and kind of like for Rod, our age differentiation, I think I wanted a bucket that was like mentor and pastor, and he's there.
Right.
And then there's friend is like my age. We both do similar things, but even my friendship story with Sam doesn't fit that. Even though we were the same age, we didn't do all the same things, and we didn't and sometimes we really annoyed each other. Actually, kind of, you were talking about the fist fight. Probably the most physical altercation I've ever had with another human being was him. It was like pushing, hitting, like leave me alone, go away.
Yeah.
I'm sick of you. Next day, it's like, I think I'm gonna swing by his house.
Right.
But I just some of those conversations reminded me that I don't even know what this is.
Yeah.
And I'm hunting for something I already have. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things though is that people are lonely and don't understand friendship because there is like a certain level of vulnerability you do have to call someone a friend.
Uh-huh.
And there is like in the circumstance, like you're in a certain place, you're around these people, you can pursue a person to be a friend.
Right.
And I think that's part of the issue is that there's this deep, deep longing for someone to pursue you.
Yes.
And to say,
this is huge. Yeah.
Are my friend. And fill up that, because I think, I talk a lot about this, but I mean, all human beings spend all their life consistently and constantly asking the question, do you love me, and am I important? Do I have impact on you? And the answer is, we're all terrified that the answer is always no, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to be vulnerable because you're putting that question out there for a pretty resounding no answer,
right?
And so, I mean, to have a friend, you've got to go risk that.
And I think that's huge in all of this is the risk. I felt it getting together with those old friends.
Mm-hmm.
And there I had some kind of intel a little bit, but I felt that risk.
Sure.
And I think that is, I hear and I see this all the time in ministry, is there's the deep longing to be pursued, but a real hesitance to do the pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very significant, what's the word? I mean, I want to say significant issue. It gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it near impossible because it pressurizes things.
Yeah.
And Rod says this to people about community or whatever, like go and be for them what you're longing for.
Yeah.
Offer what you long for, basically. And rather than demand it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it is risky.
It is risky.
You can get hurt. What do you think? So, the other thing, this would be in light of, we went through there's just a lot of shakeup, 2020, 2021, that's still fresh in a lot of our minds, where we went,
sure.
People I thought were my friends, we disagreed.
Right.
And there was a lot of fracturing.
Yeah.
And now we're a little bit away from that there's been a little time, and we get to reflect on that. And so thinking about you and Keith and stuff like that, a good friend, a real friend, you are going to get to know them enough to realize you're quite different and you disagree.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is behind us fracturing the way we did? And what do you think, a real friendship does with that? Or how do we offer what we long for in that? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel sorry. I mean, how old are you?
I'm 42.
Yeah. I feel sorry for you, and I feel sorry for the people who are leaders under you in the sense of age-wise, not under you as a leader, but in that you face a world that I'm leaving in some sense in the next 10, 15 years, 20 years, whatever, where for the last, 40, 50 years, we've felt the impact of no fathers.
Yeah.
And here's what, people talk about this all the time, but let me just talk about it more when it comes to friendship. Fathers in general, if they're stable and present, they don't even have to be highly relational, produce like a stability of mind and body so that you can deal with people disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
You can deal with adversity and not reject everyone and everything. And we live in a world now where I look at my daughter and I look at her peers. She's 23. My son is 19. And what happens when there's no dad is you get a lot of extreme ideologues, people who believe in their thing extremely.
Who you're saying end up doing the father figure thing from a distance for us? Like we attach to those kind of...
Well, if we don't have a father figure, then you're right. We end up attaching ourselves to ideologues. We become people of strong ideologies that can't interact with one another. And that's what happens is that when you have no father, everything's chaotic. And so then you need some kind of set of ideas that give you meaning and a person who's doing that for you.
Do you need a father figure? I had a conversation about this with a lady in my class who's she's very well versed in this, but I was thinking about my dad. I used to fight with him. Mm-hmm. Over ideas, but physically. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to. Mm-hmm. I wanted to test my strength against his. And I found a certain comfort in his strength being greater than mine.
Yeah.
And do we not know how to contest with people anymore? Have we?
You certainly could. You can certainly talk about it that way. And I think young men learn to understand their bodies and who they are and engage with one another with fathers.
I think there was an emotional side to it too, though.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think it's emotional. I just think, I would just go argue that it's that those are versions, like that produces stability, and stability helps you think clearly. Stability helps you relate to people in a better way. And you end up not being self-absorbed. The stronger your father in the sense of presence, the less self-absorbed you are. And the better friend you are, the better you can tolerate cognitive dissonance. And this is my experience of people who are millennial and under. And people who are younger than me, and I'm not trying to even dog on them. I understand it. It's just dealing with cognitive dissonance, dealing with having multiple ideas, thoughts, and emotions that are in contradiction with each other in friendship is just brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal on marriages. It's brutal and so, yeah, so when I say I feel sorry for you, I feel like, the calling of young leaders now is like, well, how do we learn to help people become stable in Jesus and really begin to love each other in a way where when we face a crisis like 2020, we're not at each other's throats.
Something I've noticed is people really struggling with leaders and putting titles on them like they're my buddy or friend.
Sure.
Or they're like, you're like a father or like a brother or sister, like trying these identities on and then being very disappointed when the leader isn't exactly that.
Yeah.
How do you think that? I have noticed the friend one, like where people have actually a church member who I love and care about very much said, I think of you more as a friend recently. And I could see them even internally processing, like, what do I even mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
And what they, I think, meant was that I was approachable and we could talk, and it wasn't like a top-down thing.
Sure.
But, at the same time, my calling as a leader of the community, could include authority. And that gets confusing when you're trying these titles on. How, what do you think how do you think that factors into this whole quandary we're in?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, you look at Scripture, it's very clear that Jesus calls us children. He invites us into a family formation. Mm-hmm. He says, who's my mother? Who's my brother? Like, these are my mother and brothers. And like, we are those things to each other. We do. But at the same time, if Jesus isn't central, then the human beings become central, and then that's just disastrous. But I think there's this longing for, like, people really long for a deep friend from somebody who seems to have power, but they don't want that authority to be executed until they want that authority to be executed.
Unless it's on their behalf. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've noticed.
It's really hard. I mean, I get it. It's not like I'm criticizing. It's
over the years, and it's been, some of the examples I would pull from this would have been from a while back, but people in the church stating something about our friendship where I realized that they viewed me as one of their closest friends, and put a lot of stock in that. And there's a lot of pressure in that. Whereas I would have said, if friend were a word, here, which it could be, you'd be like more like acquaintance to me. Like, you don't know me very well. Even if you hear, I mean, I think being a pastor, you get up and you tell your stories and all this stuff. And so they might know a lot about me. But that's different
than knowing you.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, what's a friendship?
I know. Right. That's what it comes down. That's the tough.
I mean, a friendship I would argue a friendship is an acquaintance doesn't really have any commitment to you.
Yeah.
Friendship, as soon as there's any kind of commitment, it's a friendship.
Yeah.
Like, since you and I commit to coming here every day, every week and talking, and if we can't, we cancel.
Sure.
With a commitment to come back the next time. That's a friendship. It might not be a deep friendship, but it's a friendship.
It's moving that deeper.
Right. And you and I aren't paid to do this.
No.
And we just, I mean, it has become an extension of our churches. But it's a thing that was born out of something we enjoy doing, which was talking to each other.
Working things out.
Yeah.
Exploring stuff together. Yeah. And that seems to have been the connecting point, right? That's what we liked about the radio show, or the pre-radio show, and said, I'd like to not lose that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also think, like, I mean, one of the things that maybe it's just me, but like the thing that I really enjoy is people.
Yeah.
And I have chosen to, for the most part, with most people, have an affection for the flaws of that person.
Yeah.
When those flaws start hurting me or making it difficult, that becomes more difficult. But I still try really hard to just enjoy the person as God created them to be, instead of like, well, I don't have anything in common with them. So, I mean, some of it's just, people are interesting because they're image bearers. And so there's not a person I've ever met that isn't interesting to me. Sometimes some are more annoying than others. Sure. Right?
Of course.
But that's part of the deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but friendship is an interesting quest, which, as I heard from Jordan Peterson, question is just a quest. And so the question here is a quest. What is friendship? You're going to go figure it out.
Well, I don't know if I will. I mean,
you'll bring something to it.
That's why, what I like about a travel memoir is it's you go explore, but it's not necessarily meant to give you. I don't want to teach people through. I want to go on a quest and just tell you what I see.
Right.
And if it gets you thinking, great. If I have an insight, I'll let you know.
You're a quester.
I'm a quester, but it's, you know, a good memoir is not full of lessons. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you like to write about what you think.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps me think, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's,
So yeah,
that's the
at some
quest.
point you'll be promoting a book on this this podcast.
Yeah. Right now, what I would love from some of our listeners, if I could, would be, I would love people to follow my journey starting now. So I'm going to, the structure of the book is going to follow the route that I drive. Hopefully planning to take a 1971 Volkswagen, the one I was picked up from school in, that Sam and I would have driven around when we were teenagers and gone to shows at Scrappy's in and all this stuff. Like to drive it to Wrigley Field, which is, like I mentioned, in his home. There was the Cubs were on and the radio was on, and I'm wearing Cubs gear now. I've become a Cubs fan entirely because of Sam. This is my memory tool to remember my friend on a regular basis. That's why I do the Cubs fan thing. And so I've got a great picture of him at Wrigley with the same shirt he told me I had to find at Wrigley, and I did, but we never went there together. It's one of those things. And a couple of friends are going with me. A couple of shared, where there's some shared story are going on the trip. And then there's an open invitation to meet us in the bleachers at Wrigley Field. And I'm not putting a lot of definition on that. In fact, Eric, and I'm putting this on the show, I want you there. I know you might not be able to go, but please come. That's what I'm trying. I know you don't like baseball. Just one game, man. Just one game for me. So Wrigley Field on September 1st, 2025 against the Braves. The bleachers don't have assigned seats, and Wrigley Field is called the Friendly Confines. Feels like the right setting to just sit together and see what happens. Just see what goes down. So that's the journey, but I'm exploring my early friendships and the concept of friendship. I need to get some dialogue with people. I need to hear people's reflections and questions. I'm going to share about once a week a little memory or a thought on Patreon, and most of those are going online, on Instagram and such right now. But some of them will not. Eventually, because I'm needing a couple things. I need people to really dial in with this and follow and care and share. And I need dialogue partners, and this trip is going to push me financially, and those who go, really trying to fund it as much as I can so it doesn't just, make it restrictive for us. And so we're not going to go crazy. We're driving. We're going to, stay in reasonably priced things. But every dollar of support on Patreon is just going to help make this trip happen. So you can join that for free. But there are 3 tiers that you can also join. And those tiers include, I send you little gifts and you get to see more posts. But the big idea is you help us go. Right. That's the big idea.
Yeah.
So, if you look up 2,000 miles to Wrigley on Patreon, or you can use my name, Andy Littleton. Eric will put a link in the show notes. You can follow there. Following me on social media helps too, but the Patreon's the place where all the info will go. And that would mean a ton. So as listeners of Faith Over Breakfast, I'd love to have you on there. And I would really love to hear from you, because I need, like this conversation with Eric, to explore this well. I've got to hear what people are thinking. I've got to hear the questions, because I have mine, but I need more. I need more of those questions, hang-ups, fears. What are you trying to figure out with friendship? So that's what I'm That's what I'm hoping for.
Cool.
And then if you want to go uber big with me, you can just follow the Cubs for a season. Just listen to some Cubs games on the radio. You can usually find it for free. Why would that make you more connected? I don't know. It'd be that little shared affinity where you might just decide you really want him to give an extension to Kyle Tucker, or Shota Imanaga is actually the best pitcher in baseball. Those kind of little things they help. They help.
The show became a baseball show.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my ask.
All right. There you go.
So
asking Faith over breakfast
to jump on, follow along.
Jump on Patreon.
Jump on Patreon.
2,000 miles to Wrigley.
That's right. Yep. So yeah, that's the deal. That's the journey. Yeah. And you can pray. You can pray that the bug works out and gets us there and back. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
That kind of prayer would be huge. We will take another car. It's not just the bug, because some of the guys going are like, I cannot ride in that thing the whole way, and that's understandable. It's a small, loud little car, but it's part of the adventure. So
interesting.
Yeah. Do you have anything you or other inquiring minds would want to know about this?
Not really.
Now that I've thrown that, did I cover it? Okay.
I think you covered everything.
All right.
I'll try to remember to put a link in the show notes.
Please do. Yep. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah. And if you have any other questions for us,
you can always email us. We love getting your questions and your emails. Questions. And so you can text us in the podcasting apps now. You can email faithoverbreakfast@gmail.com. You can, if you know us and go to our church, I always say still text or email us because I might forget your question, but feel free to also chat with me about
Faith Over Breakfast. Yeah. And so this podcast will go up, and then the next one that you're going to hear will be have no Eric in it.
Yeah. And it's myself and Andrew Hamilton from Australia.
Yeah. So talking about the compelling bivocational life.
You know what? We do, but the conversation goes a surprise direction, and we end up talking about we talk about my friend Sam, and we talk about his son Sam, and it's a really actually pretty special conversation in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that should be so. You'll be set for this week and next week, and then hopefully we'll get some other cool stuff going.
Are we going to live podcast from Iowa at the end of April, Eric?
We might.
I just threw that into the world. That's a thought now.
It is a thought.
Okay, we'll see. We're going to be in Iowa together at the end of the month, and in the first days of May, we will be in Pella, Rod Hugin's hometown, for Tulip Time, which is, I discovered why the Airbnbs were so hard to find.
Oh boy. Awesome.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, this was really good. Thank you very much. You've been listening to Faith Over Breakfast with Pastor Eric Siepen and Pastor Andy Littleton. Please share us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you.